Hey, I'm Sunny D.
And I'm Captain J. And we're the Pot Smoking Moms.
Welcome to episode number 14 of our PSM interview series.
Make sure you go check out our website, potsmokingmoms.com. Come follow us on all of our social medias. Boop. I'm ready to sesh. How about you?
Me too. I
need to finish this off.
All right. I started a new one just for you guys.
No, I have a J that I'm trying to finish up of Cocoa Puffs so I can roll me a fresh one for the episode we're about to record after this one.
Oh, nice. I got some Connected Cannabis Hitchhiker.
Nice.
This is the one I got on heavy rotation.
So if you're smoking with us, light up with us now. We're going to go ahead and set.
Yeah, get ready for a fun interview we had.
This week's guest is an OG in the cannabis space. Parisa Rad tells us about what it is like to be a co-founder of Blunt Brunch, which is a community of female executives who love connecting, networking, and learning from each other.
Yeah, we talked about how we really wanted to meet up at one that she has going on in Vegas during the business.
Yeah, she has one coming up in like San Diego. She had one coming up in Vegas in December, which is like the big annual one that they do.
Right. There's a ton of people in the cannabis
industry. It's at
MJ BizCon.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes. We'd love to go out there.
We've been wanting to go to MJ BizCon for
a hot minute.
Since 2020, since we discovered that it existed.
Yes. We'd love to meet up at one of these blunt brunches. She also tells us how she realized plant medicine was a treatment that her child could benefit from.
Yeah, that was really, the struggle that she had with her family coming to terms, like realizing, this may be a medicine for her daughter. So that was a really interesting story, and how even a very conservative family can change their views on cannabis after they see how much it helps someone in their family.
Yeah. Related to her on that front.
100%. So we hope you really enjoy this interview.
Here it is.
Well, hello, Parisa. Thank you for joining us, the Marijuana Mama in the house with us today. We are really excited to have you on the show. I've been following your account for a while, and I've seen you guys' Blunt Brunch events that you guys do all over the place, and the huge network of women that you have in your community. And I was like, we got to have them on our show because we want to, share with you guys with our audience. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how Blunt Brunch came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is fun and all, but the reason I call myself the Marijuana Mama is because I have a child with special needs and who is in palliative care due to prescription opioids that were prescribed to her when she was 14, which left her with a paralyzed stomach, and she now eats from a feeding tube. So our situation was a little bit extreme, and I was obviously just desperate as a mom, just trying to find something to give my daughter relief. Obviously, prescriptions weren't working for her, so we found cannabis, and it was literally a game changer at that point. And I felt just convicted to share our miraculous experience with cannabis and how quickly it was able to mitigate her nausea, her pain, and help with other things I wasn't even planning, like her anxiety and depression. And so about 8 years ago, I started advocating for cannabis for pediatric use in my home state of Arizona. And we helped shape some laws and improve our program, our medicinal program. And I quickly found that my passion in cannabis was, it was real, right? I was like, I'm here to stay, even without advocacy. Like, I want to be in this space. I want to be around all these other amazing people that are just, go-getters, and they don't care about, the stigma, and they're willing to fight and just push in this very challenging industry. There's a special breed of people that want to be in cannabis, right? So I was just very drawn to that energy, that entrepreneurial energy and vibe. And so I aligned myself with an organization, a women's organization back then called Women Grow. And I helped build their footprint. I was their market leader program director, and I hosted events all over the country, including even Puerto Rico. And I was tasked with, finding new women to lead those markets and get them onboarded. And then COVID happened. And it was just devastating. All the events stopped, it was so terrible. And at that point, though, us women were still longing for connection. And my business partner, Adelia Carrillo, was moving and relocating from California to Arizona, and she just wanted to connect with other executive women in cannabis. And so I was like, let's have a brunch. Everybody loves brunch, right? So we got together for a brunch, and we were able to get blunt about everything that was going on in the industry and what we've been going through for the last couple months, being isolated and not being able to connect. And it was just this real raw like environment. It wasn't like your typical networking where you have to like really put your best foot forward and try to be, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, here I could just kind of, you know, like let my hair down, if you will, and kind of be honest with my girls. And it was just this different, really healthy environment where we're like, we got to do this again. And we're going to call it Blunt Brunch, and we're going to keep doing this, you know? And so it just really organically grew from being an event series for just maybe 10 to 15 women in Arizona every bi-monthly, to then doing events in all these different states. We now host events that are 40 to 50 women. We still try to keep it intimate, but you know, we want to break bread with each other. We want to be able to get real. We want to get into the really nitty gritty of like what's going on in the industry. How can we support each other? How can we use our voices and support one another? Make sure we're bringing a seat, you know, we're opening up a seat at the table for our fellow ladies, and making sure that even as this industry grows and becomes very, you know, mainstream, if you will, and you know, corporate, we still see women in leadership roles and helping shape the industry, because we know that we've played a really pivotal role in being here and creating an industry, you know, and being that voice. And people trust women, and you know, we've helped get these laws even passed, you know, with all these different initiatives. So excuse me, ensuring that us women are still getting paid and still having opportunities and getting and having jobs in leadership roles is really, really important to us. So that's really been the foundation of Blunt Brunch, is just creating an environment where we can support one another and be honest and real and organic and supportive, you know, and finding your tribe and being able to kind of like grow from there. So we're now in so many states and just doing lots of cool things. But that was a very long-winded version of answer to your question. Sorry.
This, I mean,
your turn. Sorry, I've been talking too much. I'm gonna.
No, you're great. You're perfect. Don't worry. No worries. It sounds amazing because like normally when you go to networking events, it's kind of stuffy, like you said. You kind of like, but this sounds like you could be at one where you could just be yourself.
Right.
Is like, does consumption happen at these events, or
So, not all of them. We do have special events where we do these consumption, but we really try to make it more like it's businessy. You know what I mean? Like we're not just there to consume, although many of us are probably already consuming on the way there or after, you know, whatever that looks like.
or take a break and go outside, come right back?
Right. I mean, everybody's assuming we're smoking blunts at these events because of the name, but
Yeah.
I mean, we love our blunts, but it's more like a play on words. We want to get blunt about what's going on and how we're doing and how we can support each other. But we do these really fun little swag bags. So every lady leaves with a little Blunt Brunch, you know, goodie bag. And so those goodie bags are usually filled with lots of amazing products from our supporting sponsors. So even if we're not consuming necessarily at the event, we get to go home with some really awesome
goodies,
things to try. And, you know, that's a nice perk. Everybody likes their goodie bags.
Everybody definitely loves a goodie bag.
Especially with weed in it.
Especially with weed in it. Speaking, I'm going to take a quick hit.
Yes, cheers to that.
Now, this started all in California. You're in Arizona, you said, but you guys you go all around the country and do these events. Like, you have one in San Diego coming up, correct? And like, you are doing a Halloween thing in Arizona. So like, tell us all the different events you have coming up.
Yes, and I need to get you ladies at one of these. So maybe if you could travel to one of our special locations, that would be amazing. Yeah, we just wrapped up New Jersey. We were at NECAN and we did a fun activation there. So we got to come out to our East Coast and, you know, hang out with our ladies over there. We are going to San Diego this week. In fact, Thursday we'll be in San Diego hosting a co-ed Blunt Brunch mixer. It's our first one in California, a co-ed version. And then we'll be coming back to Phoenix in October to do a Halloween consumption co-ed blunt brunch. And then
Mm.
we're ending the year with our big national event in Las Vegas that happens yearly. We're expecting over 400 executive women from all over the country. And it is just like our Super Bowl of blunt brunches. It's the big one, you know, and it's like, it is a little different than all of the ones that we do throughout the year, but it is a place where we can kind of really celebrate each other and meet with each other. Like we don't get to see normally our ladies like across the country. And it's like, oh my God, it's like just such a great time. Because you're like, I've been following you, or I saw what you did, or I've been wanting to meet you in real life. You know, it's like those moments where you're like, oh my God, I'm fangirling all over the place. But, and that's how I feel every time I go. I'm like, I am so honored to be sharing space with you badass women. So it is really an honor. It really is. And it is just the best time.
Sounds like the best time. You said like over 400 executive women. Are these primarily in like the cannabis industry, or do we have women in all sorts of industries?
I would say it is a focus of women working in cannabis in whatever capacity that could look like. You know, we do have some influencers and different types of work, you know, that we all do. And then
Small business.
it doesn't all have to be plant touching. You know, we have plenty of ancillary businesses, media, you know, companies and partners. So women from all different walks of life, but that are somehow entangled in cannabis, right? And that's kind of their that's what brings us together.
Love it. Love it. Women in cannabis. We need to empower more women in cannabis so we have more women in cannabis in higher positions. I love that.
For real. Yes, we absolutely freaking do, because we've seen a huge decline over the years. Like I said, as it's become more corporate, we've seen less of those women in executive seats.
But taking it back a little bit to the personal reasons that you got into this space, you talked about, was it your daughter? Yeah. Before you started using cannabis to help your daughter, were you personally using cannabis as consumption? Is it something that what made you come to realize that this may be able to help her?
I was super open to it because I'd used it in college as a tool to like help me sleep. I was experiencing a lot of PTSD symptoms from just being a young mom, having a child with special needs, almost witnessing her, you know, go through some very traumatic medical experiences as an infant. And I had one of my friends in college was like, you need to smoke. Like, you are way too stressed to be 18. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on with you? I'm like, I have a heavy plate. So I found cannabis, and I was like, it was just this amazing tool that helped me kind of calm down at night and be able to sleep. And I got through college with, you know, straight A's and valedictorian and everything. So it was a great experience. But then I got into the, you know, professional P. Like, I had to join the real world, and grown-ups don't smoke weed, you know, like professional people don't do that. That was the perception, you know, the stigma. And so I got on prescription medications, and when I relocated out to Arizona, and it wasn't until Yazzie became ill and one of my very close friends, Rocio, had recommended that I look into medical marijuana. And me not being educated whatsoever, thought I had to go all the way to Colorado to get this medicine, because that's where I had been seeing parents on YouTube doing it. You know, it's all in Colorado. So I thought we didn't have access to it as you know, for pediatrics here in Arizona. So I went to Colorado, I went and got stuff, I brought it back, we tried it out. We're like, oh my God, this is really working. And I did more research and found out, oh, I can in fact get her a card here in Arizona. There's just not a lot of information about it. And so that's where I felt convicted to be like, let's do more, let's be better, let's get the word out, because how many other children are suffering thinking they don't have access to this in their home state, and they in fact do, you know? So, but yeah, then at that point when I was doing all this advocacy, I'm like, why the heck am I still taking prescription pills? So I stopped taking those and was like, mommy daughter sesh time. You know, we're gonna both use this medicine. I think I've had a little trauma too going on, so I could use a little, you know, help with my anxiety and whatnot. So
Was there a specific method that you tried that worked the best? I know I hear a lot of RSO seems to help a lot of people. And
surprise.
Oh,
what happened?
we lost her.
I'm
Oh, Oh, she got a call.
My daughter has that little Facebook Messenger situation. So if she gets a call, I get a call.
Oh,
So, but surprisingly, vaporizing was the best way, and it still is the best way for my daughter to mitigate her chronic nausea. And it's a way for her to kind of be in charge of it. Like her having cerebral palsy and complete blindness and being in palliative care and all of these things. It's like very limiting. It's like there's a lot. It's challenging to be as independent as I think she'd like to be at times. And so this allows her to kind of have that independence and take control a little bit of, her pain management, nausea control, and it works amazing. But let me tell you, being a parent of a small 14-year-old, I was like, you want me to what? You want me to let her vape it? Like, they're gonna think I'm crazy out here, Like I can't do that. And it just worked so well that I was like, okay, I really can't not
you
let her
can't
do
deny
that.
it.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, because we're so paralyzed, doing the stuff that's oral is really challenging because sometimes we just don't know how to properly dose because sometimes things don't process through the gut the same way. So like edibles are a little bit, you know what I mean? We do take them on and off, but I would say her very consistent regimen is vaporizing her cannabis and topicals.
It's like the way that you know exactly how it's gonna work and you know exactly how much you need. Edibles can be tricky too. A lot of times, sometimes they don't work when you think they're gonna work, and then they work at another time when you're not expecting it. It just feels like vaporizing or inhaling it is the most like surefire way that how much you're consuming and how I don't know, it's like immediate too.
Right. And then it wears off faster too. So it's almost like this, it's a lot easier to manage, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially somebody, like, I hate when I hear people like, I've never used cannabis, but if I do it, I'm just going to do gummies. Like, they think it's like so much easier just to do a gummy. I'm like, girl, gummy is like serious, like, hold up, don't do a gummy. Like, take a hit of something first because it'll wear off faster. You could like dose it better. You just take a little more, you know what I'm saying? But like those edibles, like you said, you just don't know. And especially as a new consumer, like I just would not recommend it. I'd be like 5 milligrams, like 10 milligrams at the most. Like you really gotta slow dose your way into edibles. Like they're pretty intense.
Yeah, edibles affect people differently. So it's always slow and go, like, because I've seen people get full on panic attacks and they
Yeah.
go
I don't want to tell
crazy
you about the
over
brownies
shit
I tried to
over it.
make back in the day, but oh my God. I
Like
had
my
people
mom, she
having
can't do
real
it.
fantasy, my boss, I made them for my boss one time. He told me, go buy an ounce of weed and make a batch of brownies for me. And I'm like, okay. So I put the whole ounce in that batch of brownies and he was
Lit. Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I'm the edible girl. I don't think I should be doing this.
I'm
I'll
always
roll
like,
you a blunt,
take a
but I don't
quarter
think I
of
should
a
be
piece
taking
of a
edible.
gummy for your first time. Never eat a whole gummy, like
Yeah.
your first time, for sure. Tell me a little bit about how did your family feel when you decided, I think medical cannabis is going to help her, and you started going that path? Did you get a lot of adversity from that, like from your family?
Yeah, it was definitely not something that was really acceptable in my household. My father's an immigrant, and because of that, it's just like you want to follow everything by the rules. You don't want to risk your citizenship or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's a different perspective of life, I feel like, and my father was very much against me using it when I was in college. Like they felt like it was a recreational thing, and they were like really against it and didn't really understand how it was helping me sleep and cope as a single parent of a special needs child. Like it was heavy for me, and I needed that extra herb to help get me through. But fast forward with Yazzy's medical, extreme situation, and they saw the same thing. Like my daughter was withering away. She didn't want to even be here. She was literally saying things like that because it was just so terrible. And so I think we were all at a state of desperation. And when they too saw how, like, there was no denying that the cannabis was making a positive impact on her, there was just no way to deny it, at that point. It was like, oh my gosh, like, we were wrong about it, and I don't even know if that was ever stated, but like the energy was different. It was like, we're here to support you. And the times that I've been able to do more in the space, they've been very hands-on and super supportive. At one point I helped, I was with an organization, a business, and that I was tasked with getting our new license in New Mexico. And so I did the whole licensing process in my hometown of Las Cruces, New Mexico. And that was very exciting for my father to get to be involved as an engineer. He helped the blueprints and just like connecting us with the right people from the city to, electric company, whatever that we needed to get our operation going. And it was just such a bonding thing, like full circle, like, 20 years ago, my dad was so mad at me for smelling like weed. And now he's helping me get this dispensary going. This is so cool. Like, I don't know. I love it. It's just a beautiful time that we live in, and thankful for people to have that capacity to be willing to change their mind and being like open to the fact that, hey, maybe I wasn't right about something before, and maybe this is good, and I think that takes a really special, open-hearted person to be able to do that.
We've definitely come a long way in the last 20 years in cannabis. I think, like, I never would have thought I'd be doing a podcast with my friend about it,
Right.
and being so honest and open about it when it was something that was hidden from family and stuff like that before. And now my whole family knows that, I smoke weed and have a podcast about it. And
how do they feel? Do they accept you guys? Like, have you always been open about it, or how did that kind of go?
Well, for me, like, my mom already knew a few years before we started the podcast, like a good 10 years or whatever before. Like, and I had
always
smoked with
know,
her.
huh?
Yeah. I even smoked with her and my brothers, and like, but I never, ever, ever disclosed it to my dad. And then somebody accidentally disclosed the podcast to my dad for me. And they were just so accepting and like thought it was great. They thought it was, they were cool about it. And now I can go in the backyard of my dad's house and smoke whenever I'm visiting there. I don't have to hide it anymore.
Right? Doesn't it feel so good? My dad was so cute. The last time I went to visit him, he's like, here, I made you something. And he had like carved a little pipe out of wood for me. I was like, what the hell? Like, this is so cute. He doesn't consume, but he's like, I thought you'd like that for your marijuana. It's like, oh, thank you, Dad.
That's adorable.
So
That's so cute.
What about for you? Has your family always been open?
No, not at all.
We're Cuban.
And
okay, so I think it's a foreign thing. Like, foreigners
like you
do
said,
not like
the immigrants coming in, you follow the rules. You don't want to get in trouble. Like, we're also the same kind of background, immigrants coming into this country. But her family, especially your mom's a little older. So
my mom is, they're older. My mom is older. She's very old school. I feel like she tries to be open-minded, but then, like, all of that damage of everybody telling her it's bad creeps up on her. So sometimes she'll be open to it, and then other times she'll be like, oh, why you do that? Why you do that? And it's just like it's come to
like you can't help it. It's just like it comes out every once in a while.
Right, exactly. And it's just like, I don't talk much about it. At first I was like really proud of how far our podcast was coming in such a short time, because when we started was back in 2020, before 2020, but right when the
right at the end of 2019, so 2020.
Oh, that's a good time to be online. That was such a good time to be online.
Yeah, so we were doing really good, and then I kind of told her, and she was kind of open to it, but then it was just like it struck a nerve at another point. So then I was just like, I'm not really gonna go into too much detail with her. So
right.
And even though they're cool, like same with my parents, they're cool. But like anytime anything is gonna be like anything happens, I made a mistake, I forget something's like, oh, were you high? Were you high? It's why
Yeah.
we were high. It's like, no, maybe it's because I'm perimenopausal and I have
Yeah.
brain fog.
Or how about I'm just juggling too much shit? And it's
Exactly.
like I'm bound to forget something.
I'm gonna forget something when I have 100
Exactly.
things I'm balancing at the same time.
You should hit them with, are you old? Is that why you're being so forgetful? No. Well, no, that's really cool. I'm glad that, at least you guys can be authentically you around your family and you're not in the cannabis closet. Like, I feel like a lot of people, still are like struggling with that. And
Yeah.
so that's awesome that you guys have been able to at least, regardless of how they receive it, you can be yourself and honest about it.
Well, what's great, you get to be out of the closet all the time. And I'm partially because I work in a corporate America still in an industry that wouldn't be so accepting. So like that's why Jay's my name on the podcast. So you don't see my full name, things like it's so draining to have that facade,
Yeah.
up when you're
I think
at your
that's why
9 to
I
5.
professionally got in this space, just because I was being so loud and like doing interviews and stuff about cannabis and pediatrics. I'm like, oh my God, how do I ever go back to like the real world? Like, I don't know. My dad was like, again, back to being that foreigner. He was like, you need to go get a good job. Just go get something steady with a good retirement, go work for the federal government. I'm like, federal government?
Well,
I'm
never let me
marijuana
smoke
mama on
weed.
IG. Like, how's that going to work for me, Dad? So I was like, I'm going to have to work in this industry, I think, because I'm just fucked.
Yeah, I think I'm about to that point where I'm like, man, I really need to pivot full time into this industry because I can't anymore. I'm like at my rope's end with.
You'll get there, girl. You'll get there. Find the right opportunity too. Come to Blunt Brunch. You'll meet somebody.
Yeah, let's do it. I want to go back a little bit
absolutely.
to what
And
you were
come
saying.
November.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
December 3rd.
Sorry,
December
come
3rd.
November, we're planning on making it recreational here. So hopefully that will give us an advantage.
Yeah,
too.
we're in Florida, so recreational is on the ballot this election. So
Nice. Oh my God, that's so exciting.
yeah.
Well,
I
I will
know.
be praying for it for you ladies.
Thank you. But I wanted to go back to what you were saying about changing some of the laws in Arizona. What exactly, what did you advocate for? What changes did you advocate for medical marijuana in your state?
So one was concentrates. So for us, that was like a gray area. It wasn't clearly defined in the medical program. And so there was still people that were going to jail for having concentrates, although they purchased them at the legal dispensary under their legal medical card. So there was just like this huge thing going on. In fact, my advocacy for it was, there was an article in Dope magazine, and I said, I'm still giving my daughter concentrates, as we, get to work this out. And somebody called CPS on me for that. And I had to deal with that whole situation. They were like, you're illegally giving your kid concentrate, like high doses of cannabis. And I'm like, no, she vapes this, and this is how she gets it the safest, easiest, and it's most convenient for her, to be able to handle it. She's blind, she has cerebral palsy, all these challenges. Like, I can't give her a lighter and some flour, you know what I mean? It's just a different situation for her. She needs access to this. And this is how all her other friends who have medical reasons for using cannabis also need it. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking RSO, we're talking edibles, we're talking every form, because everything was getting broken down into like distillate, and then they were producing the edibles through this distillate, and that was considered a concentrate. So anyways, long story short, meeting with many of our, representatives and just sharing our story and letting them meet us firsthand to understand, like, who are these people that are going to be impacted by us making this illegal or continuing to move in the way that it's been, and not clearly adding it to the, that was a huge change for our state. And I'm very proud of us for doing that.
Good job.
And just, in general, I would say also for testing was another big controversy in our state, because at the time when we entered the medical program, there was no testing requirement. So people were giving dirty weed, they were giving pesticide weed. I mean, you're giving this to the sick, like, what is wrong with you? Like, that was highly concerning. I was getting my medicine tested for my daughter after buying it from a dispensary. So like there was this extra step I was having to go through. So absolutely I advocated for mandatory testing in the state because it just makes sense. Like none of us should be consuming something unsafe thinking that we're doing it like the more healthier alternative. And then here we are with some kind of lung condition because we're smoking pesticides, you know?
That's crazy to me. They had a medical marijuana program in the state without requiring testing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, how would that even? Yeah, how does that even happen?
And you could, let me tell you, these edibles were wild back then because nobody was testing them. So sometimes one would really hit you and one wouldn't because there was like no testing happening on the edibles. So it was very much like
Wild
take
West.
one at your own risk because it might really do you in for the night.
Man, that's crazy to think that they would roll out a medical program and not have like any kind of testing requirements on stuff.
I know. I don't know how that slipped through the cracks, but you know, it was just so many things. You know, every state, as I'm able to travel to these other states and meet other women in this space, you know, you hear like these different stories everywhere though. Like there's just different challenges, right? Like it's no one program has been perfect yet. And I think we continually learn from each other. And hopefully whenever we do become federally legal, like we can have learned from the states and see like what makes the most sense federally for all of us to use the plant in a safe and effective way.
Yeah, I mean, even for us, like we have it on the ballot, but we're not happy with the means of it because yeah, we're gonna get recreational and it's gonna be, you know, basically legal here recreationally, but we don't get home grow. There's no social equity programs. There's no expungements. There's no nothing. It's just giving the existing, you know,
Life is more
like
power to have more money.
more exactly. And in the state of Florida, it's a vertical integration, meaning like you have to be a part of the entire process. So you can't get into the industry unless you're a multi-million-dollar company.
It's vertical here too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really impossible for brands to make it in Arizona because it is all vertical and the license holders hold everything. Like, you know, you really are just not even included in the program at all because you're not a license holder. It's only about license holders. So you're really in this gray area too where you're not protected as a brand or business in this space. But yeah, it's crazy. And, you know, the way I looked at it and the way that I voted all the years were at least some progress is better than none. And I'd rather not see another person go to jail for cannabis. Like, yes, this program maybe not be perfect, but we can go back and fix things. But we can't change the fact that people are still going to prison.
That's how I feel.
From cannabis. And that's what I wanted to stop. I was like, that's insanity. We have to stop that. The rest we can fix, I hope, you know? So
keep fighting.
Especially when people are making money off of it.
I know people are making all this money and then other people are still going to jail for it. It's like,
it's like the irony, right? It's just disgusting.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
But Dee, do you have any other questions for Parisa before we end our thing? Or do you have anything else you want to share with our audience? Any upcoming plans?
Let me ask her this. I know my reception shop screw this question up, but we also try to do events and, you know, it takes a while before you get to kind of really figure out how to do them to benefit everyone. How long has it, how many times, like how long have you been doing it? What are you finding being the hardest things to have to overcome when you're planning these kinds of events?
Event planning, there's so many challenges and variables that can happen, you know, and things that are kind of like out of your control, whether you're in the cannabis space or not. I would say just, you know, events in general can be kind of like that, you know, because we've had instances where last minute we can't use the venue, we have to relocate, or like, you know, just weird things, weather or whatever that's out of our hands. But I would say building your niche would be my best. Like you're not going to make everybody happy. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to feed to every, like, and especially if you hear from the audience, like that they feel like comfortable to say, hey, you know what, we like this, or we don't like that, or next time do this, or, you know, sometimes when you're building community, like people feel like they can like put their input, and that can become draining. Like you're like, dang, I'm just trying the best I can to make this event for everyone, you know? So for me, being in the event space for as many years as I have, 7 years now in cannabis, I would say, like, you just can't make everybody happy, and you can't kill yourself to do that. Like if you and get a clear vision of what you want the event series to be and who you want it to be for. You know, for us, it was like, we want it to be for other executive women in cannabis. Do we get pushback? Why don't you have this event for everybody? Like, that's not fair. Like, how many times have we had men complain? We finally rolled out a co-ed event, you know what I mean? Because we're like, okay, fine, you guys can come this one time, but it's like, but it took years for us to get to that point. But you know what I'm saying? And even then, it's like, it's not like we're going to change Blunt Brunch to be now including men. It was just, I think at this point, like, you have to be okay with being for whatever that audience is, whoever that is, and not worrying about making every single person that attends your event necessarily happy. If the overall experience was great and you were able to successfully do whatever it was that you set out to do, then it was a successful event. And that would be my best advice to you. And get emails. Because I did events for a while and I was not collecting data. And that is a big no-no. You need to get emails because, email communication for follow-up for future events is huge. We get majority of our ticket sales from our newsletter. Like, even though we have a really great social media presence, and both Adelia and I even do personally, we get the bulk of our sales from newsletter, email blasts. So
And
hopefully that was helpful. I don't know.
Also, Dee, you specialize in marketing, right? So I don't know if you have any marketing questions for her. Like, we're technically influencers, people. We do content for brands and all that. So that's been a new space for us for over the last 5 years, and finally getting to know what these different brands are looking for. Do you have any marketing advice to give out to social media influencers or anything like that? And
I mean, it's such a great time to be an influencer. Although many budgets are like being ridiculously reduced, marketing budgets, they seem to still have budgets for influencers. So I would say, like, don't even limit yourself to just cannabis. Like, you could do CBD, you could do accessories, you could do things that align with cannabis, music, like other things that touch cannabis or align with, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes, like for example, for us, our industry was really dried up this summer. Like, it's a terrible time in Arizona to be in cannabis. Like, summers are terrible. Nobody's here. They are not shopping. And it's just bad. Our economy is bad right now. So people are not buying things they don't have to have. So, our biggest client as an event production company and being a marketing consultant, my clients are cannabis licenses and businesses. And when they're not doing good, I'm not doing good, So I would say the best advice that I would say is just to think outside the box a little bit. And you don't have to be just niche cannabis. You can like expand, you could do more things, like just think more. Like, you guys aren't just women that like weed, like your moms, like, right? Yeah. Like, what about mom stuff? Like cool mom stuff, hip mom stuff. Like, you guys could tap into a whole nother market of, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I would say think like that. But your industry is also booming and brand new, about to be recreational. So I'm sure there's going to be marketing dollars too.
100, yeah. Do you run into a lot of like obstacles on social media with promoting your events and stuff like that, being that it's cannabis? Because we are constantly
being shadow banned for like years. I've been shadow banned for a long time. I mean, yeah, it's just, it is. Yeah. And even
that's why networking is important.
Yeah, and they keep changing it, and I would just say be really, really careful. Like, don't even use, like, if you post this on social, like, I would bleep out when we say cannabis, and things like that. Like, they're just becoming so strict now, even though you could even be talking about it in a medicinal way. I heard that they're adding younger users on Instagram now, so you can be technically like under like a certain age and still be able to. So they're going to become more strict about the content that's getting pushed out. So just in general, I would say just be really, really careful. It sucks to be shadow banned, and I don't know how to become.
We can't go live.
I can't either. I can't either.
Yay! We're
It's
not the only
fucking
ones.
terrible. Even though I don't like going live, I get nervous. So.
Other than your events that you talked about coming up, is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we end our interview?
No, but they can connect with me on Instagram. I am the Marijuana Mama, so DA Marijuana Mama, all spelled out, or on Facebook, the Marijuana Mama. You can definitely follow Blunt Brunch. You can find us at blunt.brunch on Instagram. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn, and just would love to connect with other fellow women and moms in the space. So feel free to reach out. I'm an open book, happy to help navigate anybody that's looking for more information about just working in the industry or parenting in cannabis in general.
All right, and that was our conversation with Parisa Rad from Blunt Brunch, which we are so excited for. We would like to attend one of those. If you want more details for these events, you could follow her on Instagram at the Marijuana Mama, or you can go to her website. That's the only way I could get through saying that Instagram.
Duh. It's like the
handle.
Marijuana Mama.
The
DA Marijuana Mama. MOMMA.
Her website is bluntbrunch.com. So take a look and see if they're in your area.
Yeah, because she's in Phoenix, Arizona. So I know they do a lot of stuff there, but they visit different cities for these events. So check them out, follow them. They may be hitting up one of your cities soon.
Hey, if you enjoyed that interview, we've got so much from where that came from.
Yeah, make sure you visit our website, potsmokingmoms.com, and following us on all of our platforms. We're very active on Instagram and TikTok, so we'd love to see you there.
Yeah, and hey, if you're on YouTube right now, it would be really rad if you liked it, subscribed, and maybe put the little alarm bell so that we can pop up every time we have new content.
And if you're not on YouTube yet, maybe come over and check our channel out. We now have videos, so we hope you'd enjoy some of that. And leave a comment too, please.
Comments are nice.
Very important. All right. And rate, review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on if you're not on YouTube.
And above all, love yourself.
Yes. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.